everyone, welcome to Waterloo Math on Track. I'm here with a very special guest.
Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm a 4A student in Pure Math, and I'm part of the Women in Mathematics Committee.
So Ellie, what's your math hot take?
My math hot take is that Math 135 is actually a very good course that helps you prepare for the rest of your degree.
So what's like the usual discourse we hear around Math 135?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people think that it's a really difficult course, and if they feel that it doesn't really help you prepare for the future courses that you're going to take. But I think that even though it is quite a tough course, it actually does a really good job of teaching you how to think mathematically, especially if you're going to go into something like pure math, which I did, so maybe I'm biased, but it helped me a lot. It helped me figure out how to do proofs, and yeah.
What's like the number one thing that you learned from that course that was the most memorable for you?
The most memorable thing that I learned in that course was a proof by induction, which is when you try to prove a statement, sort of like proving infinitely many statements at the same time. And it took me a while to wrap my head around, but I had a really good professor for that course, so that helped me a lot.
That's really great. Awesome. What's the number one misconception about the University of Waterloo's math program?
So a lot of people think that because most assignments and projects are individual, that you sort of have to be super individualistic and working by yourself, nose to the grindstone. But in my opinion, math is so much more fun and so much more interesting when you're doing it with your friends. Like whether you're just working on assignments, brainstorming for like proofs, or studying for midterms together, or really just working side by side. It makes it so much nicer, you'll absorb the content better, and if you get stuck, it helps remind you that you're not alone.
That's awesome. I really like that. What are some ways that you're being more social and building your community and your support system?
Yeah. So the main way that I've been being social and being involved on campus has been intramural sports. I've played hockey and frisbee since first year, and this year I also joined the practice team for the ringette team, and that has been a lot of fun. I've made a lot of great friends through those sports, and it really helps me be involved. I'm also a part of a couple of clubs and committees on campus. I'm in the Mario Kart Club, which is a lot of fun, and I'm also a member of the Women in Math Committee, which puts on a lot of events for women in math.
Speaking of social clubs, I want to talk more about the directed reading program. Could you tell me about what it is and what your contribution to it is?
Yeah, so the directed reading program is one of the programs that's offered by the Women in Math Committee. So it's an opportunity for women and other underrepresented groups within the Faculty of Math to get experience doing research and learning about interesting mathematical topics that you wouldn't otherwise see in your classes. I've participated in it as a mentee 2 times. The first was to learn about infinite structures, and the second was to learn about elliptic curves. And both times I got some great experience reading like high-level, even graduate text, like textbooks. And some of it I understood, some of it was a little bit beyond my reach, but it was still super interesting, and it made me more interested in like doing mathematical research.
That's super cool. How do you get involved with that?
Yeah, so the applications for mentors are currently ongoing for the summer term. And then at some point, probably within the next month or so, applications will be open for prospective mentees. And you can find the application on our website, which you can find just by searching UWaterloo Women in Math, and you can apply through there.
That's such a great resource to have, especially like connecting to other like undergrad students and grad students. I really think that's just a great initiative. What's your favorite class you're taking right now?
I think my favorite would have to be complex analysis, or PMath 352. And it's super interesting. In first year in Math 135, we got an introduction to complex numbers, which I hadn't seen before that point. And I think it's a very interesting course, and it's going to lead to a lot of other courses that I'm going to want to take like in future terms.
Nice. Who's your favorite professor?
My favorite professor is Professor Yuru Liu. I had her for Math 135 and then PMath 347 and PMath 348, and she is just an incredible professor. I highly recommend taking a class with her if you get the chance, just because she is so clear, so great at explaining things, and she's one of the reasons that I ended up becoming a pure math major in the first place. One thing that I really like is how clear it is that she wants her students to succeed. So I had her in Math 135 in my 1A term when I was still very new to university level math. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't interact with her very much. But when I had her again in third year for PMath 347, I spoke with her a little bit more, and she said that she recognized me from having taken Math 135 with her, and she said that it made her very happy to see that I was continuing with pure math. Because I'm on the Women in Math Committee and she's the director of it, I've been working with her a lot more closely on those types of projects. Again, it's just very clear how much she wants to support women in the Faculty of Math.
That's really great. What item can you not live without?
So one thing that helps me a lot with my math is I have a whiteboard on my wall at home, and often if I'm working on an assignment, I use it for rough work, for thinking of ideas, brainstorming, or for writing out rough drafts of my solutions. And it especially helps me when I'm trying to think of an answer to a problem, but I just can't quite get it. It really helps me organize my thoughts instead of having to pour through all of my notes to find everything that I might need. It helps me keep everything in one place. Even if I have to take a break and come back, it's all still right there on my whiteboard.
Perfect. Yeah, me too. I'm very much I need to write all my ideas down with pen and paper just to see everything in one place. So I totally feel that. What's one thing you want to teach me about math? Is there anything?
The fact that I wanted to share, this is one of my favorite interesting just little math facts, is that any prime number, at least 5, if you square it, it'll be one more than a multiple of 24. And that sounds really weird because one of the interesting things about prime numbers is that there's no pattern. We can't reliably predict when they'll show up. So even if you just list the first few, it's 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13 already. They're just very random. Hearing this fact that they're always somehow related to multiples of 24, it's that doesn't make sense. But if you go through the proof, then it actually can help illustrate it a lot. So the way that we would prove this is, instead of looking at a prime squared is one more than a multiple of 24, that's very clunky and it's not going to help us that much. The other way we might look at that is by saying that 24 divides p squared minus 1. Where divides means it is a factor of it. So we could say 3 divides 6 or 7 divides 49, something like that. And so what we want to prove is that 24 divides p squared minus 1. Now, one way that we can break up our number, p squared minus 1, is using the difference of squares formula, which says that if you have a squared minus b squared, that's equal to a plus b times a minus b, which means we can express p squared minus 1 as p plus 1 times p minus 1. And so now what we can do is we can work with these two factors a little bit more closely. We want to prove that the product of these two numbers is a multiple of 24. Now, 24 is too big of a number for us to work with on its own, so we can try to split it up. And one way to split up 24 is 3 times 8. Now, 3 times 8 is useful because 3 and 8 don't share any factors in common. So if we can prove that 3 divides our number and 8 divides our number, then the product of them will also still divide our number. So what we want to prove right now is that our number p squared minus 1 is divisible both by 3 and by 8. So let's look at 3 first. We know since our prime number is 5 or larger, we know that it's not 3, which means it's not divisible by 3, because if it was divisible by 3, it wouldn't be prime. So we know that out of every 3 numbers, consecutive numbers, exactly one of them must be a multiple of 3. Since we know our number, p, is not a multiple of 3, we know that one of p minus 1 and p plus 1 must be a multiple of 3. And so if we multiply p minus 1 and p plus 1 together, that must still be a multiple of 3. Okay, so that's 3 taken care of. Now let's look at the number 8. So once again, we can break up our number into 2 times 4. And what we want to show is that out of our 2 components, p minus 1 and p plus 1, one of them is a multiple of 2, the other is a multiple of 4, because then if we multiply them together, it'll be a multiple of 8. Again, since we know that our prime number is above 5, or at least 5, I should say, we know that it's not 2. And so it must be odd, because every prime number other than 2 is odd. Every odd number is sandwiched between 2 even numbers, right? So like if you look at 15, it's between 14 and 16, for example. And the other thing that we know is that if you have 2 consecutive even numbers, one of them must be a multiple of 4. Let's look at our 2 numbers. If p minus 1 is not a multiple of 4, since it's even, that means it must be some multiple of 4 plus 2. So then if we look at p plus 1, that would be some multiple of 4 plus 4, which is just another multiple of 4. Now we know that p minus 1 and p plus 1, one of them is a multiple of 2, the other is a multiple of 4. So if we multiply them together, that will be a multiple of 8. And now, finally, we can put everything together, and since we have that this number is a multiple of 3 and a multiple of 8, we can multiply those together since they don't share any common factors, and that means that our total expression, p squared minus 1, will be a multiple of 24.
That's cool.
That's one of the things that you might see in Math 135 or like a different number theory class.
So is that where you learned that?
Yes, I think that was the first place where I encountered like that type of fact. One of the units that you look at a lot in Math 135 is divisibility, and so there's a lot of those types of little tricks about when certain numbers divide other numbers.
My last question for you would be, if there's any first years watching this, what advice would you give them?
I have 2 main tips. Number 1 is, like I've already said, math is more fun with friends. If you already know some friends in your class, that's great. If not, talk to the people around you, make a study group. It will help you immensely. I did not do that at all in first and second year, but I started making study groups with my classmates in third year, and it has helped so much. And if you really vibe with your study group friends, then you can become outside of class friends as well. And then you've made new friends, and that's great. And my second tip would be go to office hours. The professors hold their office hours because they want to help you. They want to see you succeeding. But it's a lot harder for your professors to help you individually than in high school, just because there's so many more students. But if you go to office hours, that is the best place to get help from your professors.
That's great advice. Office hours is crucial for sure. Thanks for tuning in on Track.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay. We'll cut there.